And then it has to be transported from one place to, the transport is right from there. It starts right from the production part of it. Once it is produced, how is it taken to the spinning and the weaving sections? It was obviously consuming some type of fuel to be reaching there. Then it goes on to a factory where it's made into fabrics, where it is dyed, then it is labeled, it is packaged, then it is transported, then it is sent to the retail, then you reuse and recycle. Then finally the poor soul finds its way into a disposal. It can be a landfill, or maybe a t-shirt being used as a pocha in the house, or a dusting cloth somewhere to be used. But finally it does go into the landfill.
So now if this is the what we call as a supply chain, now this kind of a diagram of saying the step-by-step process of making any product is either called a product chain or a supply chain. Now, if we have to understand that what kind of, so you want to find out what is the energy, what has been used, or what we are calling the recipe of a cotton t-shirt. We want to know from you that, do you know how much water gets used, how much fertilizers gets used, how much pesticide gets used, how much oil gets used, how much energy gets used. Now, this is what we are trying to say, that any product that we make has all of these being used for making them, or some of these also become a byproduct. So emissions are also byproducts, or nitrate coming in our soil because of the fertilizer is also a byproduct, which is not good for our soil. But we are putting so much of pesticide and fertilizers, and that harms. So when we are talking about any product, we need to think that it's not just what is coming in our eyes, but there's something which is behind the scenes which happened, right? And that's what you need to think about when you're saying sustainable consumption and production. Now, so this is a kind of a diagram that we make when we say a supply chain. So if you see, first step is when you have a raw material. The second step is that you produce that raw material. Then the product goes into the manufacture. Then the product goes into the use. Like we said, it goes to a shop or a retail, and then it goes into a disposal. Disposal can be of a reuse or goes to the landfill. Now, at each step, you can see that there are arrows which are going into those. Now, those arrows are water, those arrows are energy, those arrows are other natural resources, and there are outputs also coming out, right? So they are byproducts. So the byproduct are the waste, the byproduct are the emissions, and all of this is happening at every step. At every step, there is some input and there is some output. And we need to see that for any product to understand whether the production process is sustainable or not. And this is applicable both, again, to asking you that how many you own, because you are the consumer in the end. You are at this point 4, right? So you are also a part of this supply chain, as we call it. Now let's look for a t-shirt if you want to calculate. And interestingly, you can integrate it within your course.
Now, teachers, here I have seen this lesson, Fiber to Fabric, in class 6. And here in the text, it comes to you, the NCERT and the CBSE syllabuses, only about the production of the yarn and how it is made into a fabric either on looms or it is knitted. But nowhere in the textbook does it give you how much emission, how much of water consumption is there, how much of fertilizers are used, how many pesticides are used, and how does it harm the environment. It not only harms the environment, even we human beings, the people who produce the cotton textiles, how much of pesticides they use, which is harmful to them. So we as teachers need to make the children aware of from the lessons. It comes in class 7 also, I think. 8 is also there. 10 is in the geography lesson. So if we can integrate this part of our thing, which is not in your curriculum, about the entire process, from where it comes, how much of consumption of resources does it take, which are the harmful ones, are there alternate ones, alternate sources of energy we can use, are the pesticides which are natural. So this is what we need to make the children aware of. And this is what goal number 12 has to be brought into your curriculum. So your cotton textiles, it's whether it's cotton textiles or any other product which you consume in your daily lives, where does it come from? Where does it go? How much of pollution does it generate? What are the kind of resources needed to make it for it? And finally, what happens to that? we need to be more conscious and create an awareness among the students so that they can work on, they can work on different ways, which will come to you later, how to go about it.
So one, this whole aspect about integrating within your curriculum, and I think it's very important because the moment you think that these SDG goals are outside of you, right, are outside of education, we feel that we don't have any responsibility. But that's not the case. They're pretty much within what we are doing within our everyday. And that is why integrating it within your course itself is very important. You can't, what the platform that you have today now as Setu is great, to host something like this. But how do you put it back in your course? And how does it seem that, it's not something extra that you're doing, but it is something which is part of whatever you're giving the child. So it's just, it is a little additional work from the teachers, but it's something that we need to do now in any field, in any level of education actually now. And we'll show you how something like that is done. Now, just quickly, this is a very interesting tool that we will show you.
It's I hope all of you have heard of mind mapping. Mind mapping is one tool which has been introduced lately, and it is very effective. And teachers can put it into good use for the students. It makes learning easier, and you are able to grasp and remember things better. So we'll show you a mind map of fiber to fabric, which is in class 6 course.
So what happens in a mind map is that, you put your main central idea in the middle, and anything which is a process of it, you put on the side. And like you have here, the topic 1, right? So that's a sub-subject or a subcategory, and then you put whatever details you know about that along with it. So it's a graphic and visual tool which is very easy to remember and comprehend. So we encourage a lot of use of mind maps in across subjects, but it's something that we're showing you how it can be done even for this concept of sustainable consumption, using that example of the t-shirt again. So now going back to your fiber to fabric, right? The class 6th lesson that we are talking about. Now, in class 6, you probably learn.
It shows you you have this text lesson, fiber to fabric. It tells you where it is grown in India. There are different places which is on the map. This is in your textbook, in your syllabus. Then it goes on to the conditions required for growing it. And I've used different colors for the different ideas we have here. That's the basic idea of a mind map. Use different colors. The main idea is grown in India. And this is a little bubble showing where it is grown. Then you have conditions required for growing it, which is in a yellow color. It's black soil and warm climate. Sure, everybody knows that. Then you have the resource. This is where we need to bring the children in, make them aware of this point. What are the resources consumed? Are you aware of the fact that 1 kg of cotton requires about 10,000 liters of water? Now, 10,000 liters of water, how much consumption goes into it? How much is wasted? We have to see into that. Where is the transport coming into? Is it also polluting? What kind of transport is being used? Then you have the fertilizer and pesticides coming in. We spoke about this earlier to you, about this mind map. This is the way we depict it into the thing. So, any questions?
Yes. So this is like, so this stage is really the first stage, right? So when you're producing the raw material from the cotton, and the cotton, like we said, in your subject, you would have come to know from reading your chapters in the 6th that it is grows in Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, etc. You can actually have the map of it also. So you're covering a little geography, you're covering a little, the black soil. What you're adding further is this understanding of the materialities, the inputs and the outputs that we spoke about. And this is what the result of that is. So you have the cotton, it uses a lot of water, it is using fertilizers, it is using pesticides, and like the number that we said, be mindful of the fact that 1 kg of water actually use 10,000 liters. So 1 kg of cotton is you consuming 10,000 liters of water. Now that's something which is mind-boggling. So something that we thought cotton, we always think polyester is harmful for, the nature. Cotton too. Polyester might be harmful more, your synthetic fibers may be more harmful, but cotton is also, it's the second most polluting textile actually right now, because we also grow so much cotton in the South Asian belt. So it's really causing a lot of harm in the region that we all stay in. So this tool is the first step, so when you're talking about the raw material step, this is how you can use the mind map. If you want us to pause and any of you have any question, we can take that, or should we go ahead for the next stage? Okay, I think we'll go ahead. So the next stage is about when you are working to make the material production, right? So now you had that cotton which was there. You want to tell about
Now
how
you can look at this dark purple, this color out here, which tells you when it is picked, when the balls are ready, cotton balls are ready to be picked, when they're completely dry. Where are they taken? The ginning, the combing process. What happens to that residue? We would like to know that. Normally here when you have the ginning, is the seeds being removed and the other particles of the leaves, etc., which would be into it, would be removed. But what happens to those? That is what you need the children to think about. That is what the process is. Then from once it is made into bales, it is flowers are picked, made into bales, sent to a factory for ginning and combing. Once it's done, it is sent again to another factory for being spun into a yarn. And this yarn is again bleached. So here, if you have a look here, again, we have the transport, the resources used, and how much of waste which is generated out here. What happens to that waste? That is what we are talking about. Then again, there's a transport, which is sent to factories. Sorry, we go on to the next slide.
So, this entire process, so we're talking about this producing a yarn, like we said, there are chemicals being also used in it. You might have this, the ginning machine can be a manual process. It can be an industrial process. Also, these days, machines are being used for the same. So you are again consuming energy. And then you are bleaching. That releases certain byproduct which harms your water. It goes into a river. So there's an entire cycle to these things, right? So if you say that, there's 20,000 tons of dyes which are lost to effluents every year, that's what is polluting our Ganga or Yamuna, right? So this is what we need to think about. Now, the next stage is when you have produced the yarn and it has to be taken to become a fabric. Earlier, we had the hand looms. Now we do most of it as your machine loom. And that is also consumes a lot of energy. And
your teachers, if you look at this, the entire fiber to fabric shows you the entire journey of the raw product to the finished product. But along with it, as teachers, we need to make the children aware of the resources used, the pollution levels of sustainable production. That is what our focus has to be on. How can I make this product sustainable? Because half the time the children are not aware of this, how much resources go into it and what are the harmful effects of it.
So in the entire process of making it, so you've consumed water, you've consumed dye, you have done printing. So the textile industry actually right now has got this bad name of, really being one of the most polluting industries, and rightly so. So it is also experiencing a lot of change, but we just wanted to show you this value chain of how much of energy is being used and how much of emissions and waste are coming out from this industry in a simple piece of clothing that all of us have, the cotton shirt. And at the end of it, even the way we consume. So washing, let's say, takes up so much of water, so we don't think, we mindlessly keep putting it in our washing machines. Thankfully, some of us still wash by hand. That requires less water, but even that entire process consumes so much of water. And it is much more actually than the production process, because we are at least washing it 100 times in the lifetime of that t-shirt. So imagine 150 liters are going just in the washing of those t-shirts. And then where does it go? Some of us might use it as a rag later, but in the end, all of it is going to become a landfill, right? So it will be in the heaps of waste that we see. We don't know what to do with it. So I think, the last step where we come in is how we use that product and how we dispose that product becomes very important.
So disposing, I would like to say, we should be buying how much we require, not more than that. That is another way to minimize the effect of the production and the harmful effects of any good which we use.
Yeah. So just a quick summary of this, the value chain that we have. So these are like some big top-notch numbers. So you know that one T-shirt has used 2,700 liters of water. It has used almost 0.01 kgs of fertilizers. It has used 0.04 kgs of pesticides, so much amount of fossil fuels. Now, what can you do of this, right? So what if you want to give your kids a quick lesson that, okay, if you have 10 T-shirts, I mean, Akshi ma'am had 30 saris, do you want to just multiply into 30 and figure out what your footprint of your saris are? Just the saris. How much have you consumed as an energy? Or how much have I contributed to my carbon footprint or anything by just consuming, let's say, 15 T-shirts? And then you multiply it with how many people you have in the house. If you have 5 people in your house, all of them have at least 10 T-shirts. That means 50 T-shirts are requiring so much of consumption of these, the energy sources. And then imagine people in your lane, imagine in your neighborhood, imagine in your city. That number is mind-boggling, right? But it's a good exercise to do these kind of quick surveys to know where are we, ourselves and individual. Now, again, just a quick snapshot of a similar thing. So this entire making the cotton T-shirt or the textile industry, it's one of the largest industry which is polluting. It is causing 10% of the global emission. It is one of the largest water polluting industry. It is a lot of it just goes in the in the landfill. And this entire amount of 2,700 liters of water making one T-shirt is like somebody's 2.5 years of water consumption. And we know a lot of our areas are suffering from drought. We have still water-stressed India. We are completely groundwater dependent nation. Now, in something like that, we are growing cotton mindlessly, right? We are going on consuming water. We are going on consuming these resources, unaware of the fact that, this is depleting our groundwater. And it is resulting in a lot of us not having access to water at all. So this is what is the concept about, what is this energy that we're consuming? What is the harm that we're causing? We don't see the harm immediately. So we need to use our critical thinking and go back and imagine that harm in some sense and map it. So going back to our 2 goals, right? So what were our 2 goals? That there has to be sustainable production and there has to be sustainable consumption. So the production is coming from the business side, right? So that needs to be sustainable. The entire process where we're saying about 2,700 liters of water, so many fertilizers, so many pesticides. How do I make that value chain entirely sustainable? And on the other side is me as a consumer. What can I do? So like we spoke about, as a consumer, you can say, I don't want so much. Going back to Abdul Kalam and saying that, okay, I'm fine with like five suits or 5 shirts. I'm okay with it. Do I need so many? Right? So do I need, let's say, 50 saris or so many in my wardrobe? What I'm going to do about that? And what has happened lately, and especially a lot in the COVID times, is that we have become very quick consumers, especially online, and so much packaging goes in when you get something from Amazon. So it's not even just the product. You're getting so much of packaging, and there is entire energy being consumed in producing that, in getting you that product. And I would just spike my phone and get that mindlessly, right? Not thinking that what would that mean? Can I, let's say, maybe call all of them together? I don't know. I mean, there has to be a thought when we are ordering something. And on the other side, you have a business. So some of you might have heard about now organic cotton, right? Now that organic cotton is something which does not use pesticides and fertilizers. It uses the lesser amount of water. It is trying to work with handlooms. It is reducing the dyeing process. So it's going as organic as possible. And there's lots of investment or what we call as impact investment and, banks and funders which are supporting something like this to move towards this, like we have organic vegetables and or organic farming, go towards organic cotton also. So it's more sustainable. The entire process is more sustainable. So these two have to be always seen together, right? So you have to make businesses more sustainable and you have to make our own habits as a consumer more sustainable.
So here, I think what we need to do is make the child aware of what he, the shirt he's wearing. What is the journey? What's the life cycle? Where does it come from? And what is the harm it has caused on his journey? For me wearing it right now and for being washed so frequently, So we need to be more aware of it. That is what you need to create in your students. As teachers, we can surely do it. Because I remember here, I would like to share this with you. I remember a couple of years ago, more than about 15, 20 years ago, we came up with this air pollution. No patakas for Diwali, no crackers for Diwali. The children at first were very disheartened. Ma'am, how no crackers? That is no Diwali. But finally, it was ingrained in the child how polluting the crackers were. Finally, I remember now when my grandchild wanted to get crackers for Diwali, and they understood why we know crackers are being burned. So I think this is the way we need to create awareness right from the school side, because children love to listen, because teacher's word is the final Bible for the student. So if the teachers insist and convey this kind of message to the child and create an awareness, I'm sure those Diwali crackers, which are hardly used now, this change can be brought about in other industries also.
Yeah. And we can learn. I mean, something which I've recently also been reading, like tourism industry. Now, Uttarakhand is also one of the economies where the tourism is a big economy for Uttarakhand, right? So tourism industry is trying to become sustainable. In fact, I'm working on a project which is called community-based sustainable tourism. How do you make that entire process of tourism more sustainable? Because, when you go into a hotel, the first thing you want to do, or the tourist wants to do, is switch on the shower and take endless bath, as if there is no problem of water in that place that you have gone to. And you have Nainital suffering from it. You have completely irresponsible tourism happening. Now, so we have to really think about solutions in all of that. And a very simple solution that you find in many hotels now is this toothpaste dispenser. You know how most hotels, what they give you is like that small toothpaste and a brush. Where does it go after you? So it either gets thrown and then they'll give you a new packaging. Obviously, another guest doesn't want the same one. So what happens to it? We just throw it, like we throw the plastic, we throw this little, toothpaste tube. But now many hotels, and these are top-notch hotels actually, are coming with these dispensers. Now that's something as simple as, like we are still aware of a bath, a bath shower, dispenser coming in, but toothpaste dispenser is a little new, and I'm glad it's there. So you're not wasting those small toothpaste tubes. Another example, so this one is from the Northeast. Now this guy is weaving a basket, right, for giving a pizza. So you don't have like a box packaging, but you can do a packaging that can be sustainable also. I mean, you have to be a little innovative about it. The third example here is about coffee. So what goes into that one cup of coffee or even tea is a lot of deforestation. The way we grow coffee and tea in our country or anywhere right now is that we remove the forest and then we do the plantation. That's what Britishers did when they wanted tea to come into our country. We did not have tea, right? So they saw that, in China there was tea, and India had this typical similar topography which could support tea. So a lot of forests were, completely deforested, and there was tea plantation and coffee plantation. Now, what does that happen? It of course spoils your groundwater and many other changes. The climate change, the biodiversity change. Now, something that is now a recent practice is to grow coffee under the shade of the tree. So you have these. The longer rainforest tree, let's say in Karnataka, if you are having a coffee belt, but you go grow the coffee beneath the shade of the tree. So you have entire biodiversity and you have coffee. And now the producers are getting like this different flavors of coffee, because of the biodiversity which is around. So there are different kinds of coffees that you are getting. And that's again a very sustainable business, which is looking at biodiversity and what you can do along with it. So just sharing some, quick examples for you to see that this is not just a story of cotton. It can be anything that you pick it up from the same lens, right? So see it as a supply chain. See each step from the raw material to the disposal and what happens there. Can you find that out? Now, just a few thoughts. Don't always believe that, everything is hunky-dory when we say sustainable business. In fact, I find it as a big, oxymoron that you're talking about a very capitalist economy and we're saying, oh, we're going to make it sustainable. मतलब वो sustainable हो भी कैसे सकता है, right? How does anything that we are consuming वो कब sustainable हो सकता है? And so there is, I think we need to be also aware that a lot of it is just what we call as greenwashing. सब चीजें sustainable नहीं होती, उसको हम ऐसे पेंट कर देते हैं कि green हो गई है. तो हम हर चीज को green बोलते हैं, green jobs, green development, कहीं पे पार्क खोल दिया green हो गया, वो ग्रीन नहीं होगा, वो शायद उसमें कोई आपको पंछी नहीं मिलेंगे, कोई पेड़ नहीं मिलेंगे. It's not a biodiversity rich, but we're gonna say it's a green space. Yeah, I mean, all of us are happy, but that's not really the case. And we thought we'll show you a quick picture and something which you guys might be familiar with on what's happening in Uttarakhand. So there is a lot of afforestation work which is happening, especially of pine trees. And what we have read is that probably that's not very good for the state of Uttarakhand, So it's harming, again, the groundwater. It is reducing the agriculture which can happen, because what happens in pine tree, and unlike what we saw in the tropical tree, you cannot grow anything beneath the pine, right? So it absorbs everything and no other plant can grow beneath it. So you can't do agriculture, you can't do anything after that. So we're not sure that just by having a forest, is it green? So that's why we talk about native plantation, which are local to that area, suited to that area, suited to that topography and geography, that soil. And pine was not natural for our country. It was brought in. And it is now being, propagated almost like how eucalyptus was propagated in Delhi, or kikar was propagated. Now, all of these take up a lot of water, and we need to be very, very mindful of what we are doing in the process of afforestation also. So just by saying it's sustainable, it doesn't make it sustainable. And if you allow, there is a video. I'll see if it plays for you. Can you hear it? I don't know if you can hear it. So what that guy was really saying is that even though we think now, the electric cars are the thing, right? So we are assuming that every problem is going to be solved by that battery, but that's really not the case. For even producing that battery, somebody is mining largely in Africa, coming up with uranium, coming up with lithium, completely unsustainable process. So there is nothing like zero emission. There's nothing like actually living that zero waste life. So when we say sustainable production, don't think that everything is again going to be very, very good, or this idea of the solar cells. Now, India is putting solar parks everywhere. Now, what is the impact of that solar parks? We've not seen, right? So it impacts the biodiversity, it impacts a lot of other things. And to get that cell in the solar cell, which we are not producing right now, and we're getting it from other countries, that itself takes so much of energy and is completely unsustainable. So isn't it better then to use something which is local? Maybe use the wind, maybe use the water a bit more. That in that process is more sustainable than assuming that solar is going to solve all your problems. Yeah.
Any questions you would like to ask? Okay, we'll move on to, we teachers very often wonder how we can, get this goals going into our curriculum. It is very easy to do it, and one can do it, because as teachers, it's our duty to create an awareness among the students. Another thing is, when we teach a subject, it should not be taught in isolation. We should integrate the concepts in, example, if you're teaching a science lesson, Can I integrate it with maths? Can I integrate it with geography? Can I integrate it with English or the Hindi? Any subject like that, this can all be done very easily, provided you put your mind to it and you are able to get the answers to your questions. Here, you have EVS Science, Maths, and Humanities coming in class 6 in Fiber to Fabric. For example, if I talk about Nidhi, I think already told you, if I want to integrate it with maths, how much of water consumption is there, how many, multiply it or divide, whatever problems you want to give the children, the costing of it, etc., can be integrated with maths and can be integrated in all the other subjects. You have Fiber to Fabric, garbage in and garbage out. Then you have Fiber to Fabric again in class 7 and Journey of the Waste, and class 8 as synthetic fibers and plastics and pollution. So definitely teachers try and integrate the lessons with your other, so that the children become aware of the problems we face.
So what we're showing here are just examples, right? So you can see that these chapters have this concept. Now this can go from your early years till your K-12, the 12th standard, and to even later. So maybe in your economics, you would talk about, let's say, the Keynesian economics, or you'll talk about maybe, let's say the capitalist economy, or what Marx has said, and you can integrate these concepts within that itself. So it can start from as basic as, so just showing you, as basic as something like, talking about reuse, to something that is going to understanding economy. And we'll show you some examples on how something like this can be done. So one example that we want to show you is, so we run these workshops for schools, which is called Ecosophy, which is being in ecological harmony. And there we've done a training of teachers, but we've also worked with like 50 schools and given them these, it was like a competition, right? So one of the schools very interestingly picked up waste, and they made an inventory of how much waste do they produce at their own homes and the kind of waste that they produce. And then they did it for their apartment also. So within a week, they kind of noted it down that, most of the waste is either organic in nature, some of it is plastic, some of it is paper, and daily maintaining it, so that when you put out your black garbage bag, what is in it? Can you actually conserve something? So if you have, let's say, they've counted that you have 5 kg of organic waste, that organic waste can very well be, made into a compost. So are you doing that action? If it's a plastic waste, can you reduce that plastic? Now, until and unless we see it, we actually do that survey, we actually know what we are producing every day, every week in our house, we would not be able to make that change. And something like this is a good exercise, let's say, to give your class 6 students, class 7 students, they can easily do this kind of a survey and make an inventory. So it's another example, and just showing you from this range that we spoke about, right? So in the early years, what can you do, right? So where you can do these little exercises to understand what is reuse, how do you recycle, and you can engage the child in doing, making these items out of reuse material, etc. Go to primary school, you can actually do composting in your own school. You can do a little bit of organic farming. You can do activities with them on all of these topics. You can even, what we showed about making your own inventory, see that kind of inventory on what personal choices are they doing, right? So are they switching off the light? How much water are they using? Ask them, do your clothes get, how many times do you wash your clothes in a week? Are you walking to school? Does anybody take flights? Just making me aware that, all of this is not something free of energy. All of this costs something in respect to the natural resource. So there is something behind it. So when we say, tap band kar diya karo, kyun bol rahe? So are they switching off the tap or not? So just making them aware of this is a good thing to do in your primary years. Going on further, the whole concept of supply chain that we showed you with an example of cotton. Similarly, it can be done, let's say, for coffee. It can be done for anything, right? So do that in your senior secondary school, the students would be able to understand that concept. And as you go ahead, if there are people from higher ed here, there is great need to bring in innovation, small innovations also. Students can also be very innovative, like we showed you the packaging thing and coming up with lots of products in it. There is also the need to understand fair trade. Now, again, going back to the cotton example, lot of production of making that garment is happening in Bangladesh, happening in India. All your waste of bleaching, textile dye, everything is coming to our countries, the developing countries. There is no fair trade which is happening. And there are many organizations which are now fighting for the conditions of the labor, the environmental impact for the developing countries. We make the product and we get all the bad residue and then we ship it back to the developed countries. So it's almost like, this is not my responsibility, or what is called, there's a word called NIMBY, which is not in my backyard. Till the time, the waste is not in my backyard, I don't care, I can be blind to it. जब कूड़ा होता है तुम किसी के दूसरे के प्लॉट में जाके फेंक दो या दूर फेंक के आ जाओ, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, मुझे तो नजर नहीं आ रहा. That's how it is being done in all of this also, right? So if something is being made, it's not in my backyard, it's not in my country, the waste is going to another country. And that's something which is not acceptable. So that your senior kids can also engage in those, especially in subjects like economics, they can talk about that. And also there is this entire movement about environment, social and governance responsibilities of businesses. And now, there is this organization called SEBI. Every business has to report on what it is doing. So it's called the ESG report. So that again is a very important area that needs to be explored. So just showing you that I am doing this in my own job right now for a fisheries value chain. So it's not something that, it can be done from a primary year to now. All of us have to do it in our own very way. And that is what we were trying to show you, that this has to be integrated in what your education is. Just the last slide for us from our side. So it's again leaving you with a quote, and it's one of my favorite songs, which just basically says that they paved paradise to put up a parking lot. So we think that the parking lot is important, but it was really the forest that was important. So again, go back to mindful consumption. How can we influence sustainable production is what should we aim, and how do we consume more sustainably should be our own mission for ourselves. So we'll pause at that. Happy to get some questions and interact with you guys. Yes, over to you, the organizers.
The session is open to all teachers for questions and answers. All your doubts and queries will be addressed to.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir,
Yes.
you're audible, please.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is, which type of the sustainable project looking for this completion? Basically, you are describing related to the most of the
Sorry, you're not audible, sir. I can't understand your question.
which type of the sustainable projects you are looking for, basically, because
Okay.
most of the things which we have to discuss or we have to see that they are related to the agriculture, most things, or some is related to the environment, because I think that there is one another concept of the sustainable development is IT sector.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So,
So-
what we mentioned about the electronic waste, all of that which is happening. So you pick up any supply chain. So for us, what we were showing you was a tool of doing this, right? So it's not just in agriculture, not just in textiles. It is there in construction industry. It is there in IT industry. The cost of producing let's say a laptop or a tab, who's calculating that? And it comes exactly from the same process. You're very right, sir.
Yeah, because I'm also the research scholar on the field of the computer science, so I am find that there are so many problems related to our e-waste.
Yes.
Because we are always be talking about the environment, we are always talking about the agriculture, but we are not talking about this technology, because we are very fond of about these technologies. Everyone have their 2 and 3
Correct.
mobiles, Bluetooth speakers, 2 and 3 TV in their home, and
Correct.
other things. So
Absolutely.
they are so much harmful, because other thing, I think that in agriculture field or other things is we have to regrow, but these things are not be useful for us most of the time, because they are producing so many of the harmful things related to their.
Yes.
Sir, I would like to say one thing. Younger the children are, the better you can create an awareness. So we need to start right from the beginning, whether it is the IT cell, whether it is the construction, the business, whether it is the textile, whether it is the car, automobile industry, wherever it is, it has to start somewhere or the other. So we are just not focusing on this. By this, we try wanting to convey that it can be carried out anywhere, any part you would be interested to work on, whether it's the IT
Okay,
cell,
thank
where,
you, thank you, thank
you
you.
know, because I know the amount of phones and just sum it up.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think one of the first images that we showed as the waste was the e-waste also. And right now the e-waste has no solution. We have no idea about it. I mean, they're still thinking about how do you make waste to energy plants or the other kind of waste. But e-waste is something that the world is really, really struggling with right now. You're right.
Thank you.
Sir, your hand is raised. I'm wondering if you have some sharing some comments.
Glad to. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I just want to add on to what Sir was saying, and he was talking about e-waste. I guess e-waste is one of the biggest issues coming up very shortly, along with obviously when we were talking about fabric and the manufacture and consumption of the fabric. E-waste, we usually try and kind of consume our ideas with the fact that e-waste belongs to just the disposal of waste, e-waste, but it could also be, if we try and understand the amount of energy, like if you just try and take an example, suppose your laptop, you have, we realize that there is a certain amount of, there's a fan working just to reduce the heat. Could we realize one thing, that is actually a byproduct? And that heat is actually, when you talk about very large search engines, think of the amount of energy that is utilized in just trying to reduce the temperature of these supercomputers. We are actually working in figures which we cannot even fathom. That is another waste or a byproduct which we can talk about. At times when we get down to it, I guess there's so much of an economy which is developed, and it's so directly connected to it, Indian economy, which is running on double digits, basically running majorly on sorry. Hello. So yeah, obviously this energy is obviously going to be a very, very big, this energy issue is also going to be a very big task, but I think we're not going to be addressing it. At least the Indian government, I guess the economists wouldn't be wanting to discuss it, because it seems to be rather negligible or insignificant at the moment, thinking that, okay, it's only my mobile phone which I'm using to search. But think about the number of search engines that open up at the same time and the amount of energy that is consumed. So yes, that is also another waste alongside. Fantastic, fantastic. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. And even now with the 5G and the data servers that we are making across, I mean, there's lots which is going to be changing, and we're not doing an impact assessment of that at all right now. But you're very right. Yes.
Along with that, I think he was also mentioning about energy consumption and maybe production of food, and yes, and the way we consume food. So considering that we did this last year as a small little workshop as to sustainable cities, wherein we just said, okay, let's take whatever we go and we do our daily chores and we come back. We go buy our rations or fruits and vegetables. We go up to the shopping market and we come whichever market we come back, and we actually utilize that energy, which was actually a petroleum product, which we've utilized to go there, go to a particular place, pick up our vegetables and come back thinking that it was nothing. On the other hand, the same thing could be just since you as an individual, you use up about anything between 1500 to 2000 calories in a day. Why couldn't you use your own energy, which you're going to come back anyway and use on a treadmill?
Yeah.
You're going to be utilizing that energy on a treadmill, so why not walk across?
Yeah.
And so that's why the last year's thing was streets for me. And when I see that the pavements are there for me, I can at least walk. So that was a very nicely directed event done by Aruna and various other people. So I think this is also a very, very nice start. And I think this is what is going to be kind of pushing teachers to start thinking. I think we should call them more of coaches rather than teachers, where they will be able to kind of direct those children. They see it in front of them, but they can't fathom the kind of energies that they are consuming in a particular day. And
Yeah.
we've already did. I think the point of the tipping over point of the world is already there. We've already gone over the tipping point. Maybe I was hoping you could just give them an idea about what the tipping
Yeah.
point is all about.
No, in fact, what you said about food is also very important because, another exercise that many schools, and I'm sure you might have already doing it in your school, is having your vegetable gardens, right, within the school itself, and growing native and also understanding the traditional way of cooking. So in fact, again, in that ecosophy one, we had this school from Jammu and Kashmir, which showed us how do they save or preserve the food, right? So it goes beneath the ground, they save it for the winter years, and the whole way of how they use their own houses. They don't have refrigerators or deep freezers to really keep all of that. How does the vegetable become, consumable in the winter months? What is the whole process? How do you cook it? Which vegetables are local? I think those very little concepts make a very large impact. And that's what we need to be mindful of. And if we engage the child in the process, don't make it a theoretical process that, you teach the person or the child, that then the energy or any of these concepts look very abstract because you can't feel and touch them. But the moment you say, okay, now we're going to do an organic garden in my school, I'm going to understand how do you make like a local sabji. Uska kya tarika hai? Then you understand the entire, where that traditional knowledge was. And I think something like that has to really be done in all your concepts. It's not just one product, one thing. Those are the eyes that you need to develop to see something. So if you can save, like you're saying, by walking, making walkable streets, by just being able to do that, can you grow native plantations? Can you have, certain kind of plants which consume less water because they're suited for your area? What are the things that, you can, what are the clothes that you should wear? It's really looking at your daily life is what you have to do, I think. And start it with the school, start doing those in your school, really.
Yeah. So the coming workshop, I think, we'll be working intensively on, yes, obviously on what from fabric, which we actually what we call fashion, and how we will be able to kind of work around it, working on maybe looking in deep into our own cupboards, like you said. I could say I would have 30 t-shirts or 40 t-shirts. I'm quite sure I've got plenty more things which I'd never use. Even something was as close to as my wedding trousseau maybe would have never been used ever again. I'm quite sure many of us would be saying yes, and would be sheepishly not talking about it, because obviously that's something we spent the maximum amount of money, and the maximum amount of energy must have been utilized in manufacturing, right from the zari work till the whatever the kind of fabric and things like that. So I'm sure we now, in our heart of hearts, we realize that there is something which we went beyond. Maybe even the idea of clothing went to fashion. Yes, fashion was good, We enjoyed it. It was a way of being appreciated within within a society, within the social fabric. But how do we go about now? Maybe the idea of the concept of fashion, or maybe the concept about fashion would also mean maybe going to a shopping mall, like you correctly said, go to a shopping mall, maybe have a burger with a couple of friends, have some pizzas. Great, great. But when you are calculating, we start only calculating our calories when we've already grown too fat. Not realizing yet the actual, if we kind of get the child to understand what do you mean by calories? And that's when you say, okay, let's talk mathematics. What are the calories? Let's calculate what we have. And how do we process our food, and what is processed food? Again, everything comes in. So when we calculate the consumption of our consumption and the actual consumption of the energy that has gone into making it.
Exactly.
Nobody thinks
And
about
even
that.
composing, right? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you might have done this exercise that you put a banana peel under the ground and you put a plastic packet in under the ground and show it to the child that after a week, the banana peel is not there. It has decomposed, but the plastic packet is still sitting there, and it will take years and years and years, and it will remain in the ground. Show it to the child that this is what it means, that, this is not getting decomposed. What does decompose mean? What does this, why are we saying don't use plastic? Once you show it to the child, that will remain in the mind, that this is what happens.
So even the government of India has now enforced into various fashion houses such as Reliance and what you're talking about. And what has happened is now they're diversifying from just cotton to a different fabric, which will have almost 40% of different materials apart from cotton. So I think that's going to be a very, very major step which the government is doing. So yes, but we need to support the efforts of the various think tanks in the government machinery, and how we can put across something to our students.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for Uttarakhand, I think the cold chain is one big problem for agriculture produce also. So if the students can, start thinking about what can that solution be, how can things be transported, how can a perishable food, because you are transporting your crop, your vegetables, your fruits to other place, what should that be? I mean, because that takes up a lot of energy also, right? And the entire transport and cold chain. So there, the layers of problem. You can begin with your state and see what is it that can be addressed. Like
So
water is a good
vocal for
medium.
local
Absolutely,
for local, because things
absolutely.
are going to come in. And I think Sanya and all these people are going to be discussing that shortly. So this was a very, very big great eye opener, I guess, just to try and figure out, and especially ma'am when she was explaining how the mind map was working. So that also gives a very clear picture, plus the complete process of how we can put it across to the students when we are doing these workshops also. Obviously, the fun part is, yes, we want to win a certain prize at the end of it. Yes, and that is how we kind of put the carrot in front of the child, that there is something which is you're going to be getting at the end of the race, or what you can say. But in the meantime, what we are trying to address, I think we put that across very clearly to the teachers. And, thank you. I mean, please carry on. Please carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you guys. If anybody else has any question, any remarks, any suggestions, we would be happy.
Very good evening, ma'am. Hello,
Hi.
ma'am.
Hi,
Am I
Ananya.
audible?
Yes. Yes, Ananya.
Ma'am, it was somebody else. I will speak later. Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Ma'am, you can proceed, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, we as mentors to the school children, a very common problem I think that every school will relate to is of the single-use plastic pens. So if the amount of energy consumed in producing the single-use plastic pens, and also in terms of decomposing the same, if we as mentors together can work on an initiative like that, that we from the very beginning, guide our students to say refuse, though a number of schools are already working on that, but the biggest problem comes across when we're talking about the stationery. So we as mentors can address that and ensure that no step is actually small. So this little thing could bring about a major change in terms of single-use plastics.
Ma'am, can I share something with you? When I was in school, teaching the kids, especially the mental maths or any other spelling test we wanted to take, we introduced slates to the children with chalks. You used to get those slates and they would get the chalks, pick up the slates to show you the correct answer. So no paper was used, no pencil or a pen was used. So it was the slate which was being used along with the chalk on it. So it was a very good way of saving paper there. And plus your pens, your plastics you're talking about. So especially in the lower classes, you don't need that kind of, we can easily work out with slates. I have experimented and it's worked out very well with them. Thank you.
And this is not, this is pretty much present day times, what she's telling, right? So like few years ago in a school. So it's something which is pretty doable if you want to. And what you're saying, ma'am, is also very applicable, even if we just move towards ink pens, which we used to actually earlier, and refill it, which somehow is no longer the practice. You want to have just use and throw, everything is use and throw. We can surely do it. It's just about our way of doing things that needs to be rewired. You're very right. It's almost like, a lot of people now carry their own cups, they'll carry their own water bottles. You don't want to use, let's say, a plastic straw. I mean, these are daily lifestyle changes now, as if you're going for a walk for your lifestyle. What can you do to consume less? It's something like that needs to be done as a lifestyle, what needs to be changed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. I think we're done, Ananya. I think it's a good discussion. If anybody else, we'll be happy to address.
Very good evening, ma'am.
She have raised her hand. We can just ask Ananya ma'am. Can we ask Tina Sharma ma'am?
Oh,
Because her hand raised.
yeah. The session is open.
Good evening, ma'am. Hina this side. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to appreciate this session because it was really a wonderful session. I must say an eye-opener for all of us.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Actually, when I looked into my cupboard, I never thought of this way because I am a cloth lover person. But when I thought the way you tried to show it, I also felt, yes, I am also contributing a lot of harm to my environment. And I think we can say no to these things. Now I've realized we can do that. But one question I have, ma'am, as this event is a little practical question, which I have for my students, as we have this event on 2nd of October. So we have two groups like 9 to 12, which one topic you have discussed in detail, and we have understood what we have to do with our kids and what we have to come up with. The other group, which is 6 to 8, where we are talking about healthy in and healthy out. So I'm a little confused how to go about that group. Can you please elaborate a little?
Yes, absolutely, ma'am. So start again with the raw products, right? So like we were, I was speaking to when Pankaj was also talking, we started speaking about what is locally grown. Now something, let's say, these days there is a big fad to eat kale or avocado,
Yes,
or all of these exotic sounding vegetables. How do we get them in our country? We get them in storage, in transport, right? All of that takes so much of energy. हमारे यहाँ पे तो नहीं बनी. आपके यहाँ
this all is not locally grown. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So आपके वहाँ पे जो सब्जी, जो साग, जो फ्रूट, जो वहाँ का वो प्रोडक्ट होता है, वो सबसे sustainable होता है energy के लिए भी, and even for the health, even for the nutrients. Now imagine a vegetable जिसने at least 20 से 30 दिन सिर्फ transport में ही बिता दिए. उसके कितने nutrients रहेंगे? Now vis-a-vis जो आपके किचन में आपने कुछ हर्ब डाला है या खुद उगाया है, उसको आप फ्रेशली खा रहे हो, जो हम कहते हैं ऑर्गेनिक खाना, वो
Yeah,
कितना
right.
ज़्यादा nutritious होगा. So that is healthy, but it is also energy wise healthy and sustainable. We know
So,
कि घर का सब्जी अच्छी है, पर वो energy
So,
भी कम लेती है.
now I'm understanding, like we have packaged vegetables and which are out of season, which are not
Correct.
required that way.
Correct.
So the vegetables which are seasonal, I believe that are more, and now I'm understanding how we have to go about it.
Correct.
Okay.
Ma'am, excuse me, they can make a list of the things which are locally grown first. Let them be aware of the things which are grown around your area. And then
Okay,
you
ma'am.
can help them to find out, once they know the list, this is grown here, and this is what comes from outside. Then this can
Okay.
help them in a big way. Just let them make a list.
Yeah.
Let them be aware of what is available locally. in
Definitely,
that-
ma'am. They must not be knowing the surrounding, what is it grown, what is locally of Uttarakhand.
Ma'am,
May
उनको
they may
ना
not be knowing.
घर वालों को पता होगा. जैसे हम एक्सरसाइज करते एक और स्कूल के साथ कर रहे हैं. So what we say is कि go up to your grandparents, parents, and in fact there's lots of these let's say जंगली तुलसी. अब हम जो अपने घर में तुलसी यूज करते हैं, जो आपके पास तो इतना फॉरेस्ट है आसपास, उसमें जो उगरी होगी ना वो अलग है. You have those different kind of ferns which get used.
Yes, ma'am. I have seen that. Yes, ma'am.
है
I've
ना?
seen that. Yeah.
And they are amazing, but you know, there उसका कुछ local नाम भी होगा. Like locally, what is that called? So let them ask their grandparents and the parents and make a list and let them learn the local native name of that vegetable also, or that herb, or that, you know, any leaf, and figure out, you know, like we said, banta kaise. That is also very important process. So how does it get cooked? What is the recipe of it? So let that inventory come in. Another aspect that you can do in healthy eating and healthy out is again, which we spoke about, the packaged food. Now, packaged food is also coming with lots of plastic. That again is not healthy, right? And we easily give little छोटे biscuit के packet, छोटा chips का packet, कितने packets हम उसी में बता देते हैं. That's not healthy. इससे better तो हम बल्कि घर में थोड़ा बना लें and distribute कर दें. And you know, so all of these concepts are bringing it back to food. Food takes up a lot of energy. In fact, after textiles, it is food industry which consumes the maximum energy.
Actually, it is the food industry which takes up a lot of. Okay, ma'am. I have understood. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a nice session.
Thank you, Hina. Thank you so much.
So Ananya ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
now we are on a verge of, you know, completing the session. So I would like to say thanks to Ms. Nidhi Batra and the I don't know actually. Ma'am, so sorry for it. So though our student team definitely they will be going with a formal vote of thanks, but actually I've been impressed the way you have conducted your session. So I didn't stop myself. I being as a principal of a school, I thought I should personally say thanks to you. So thank you so much, ma'am. And we look forward to have a lot of wonderful session and the learning session, and we are hoping for the same. Thank you so much, ma'am. So over to you, Ananya ma'am. And yeah, one more thing. As being a principal, one question and one problem has been raised by Ananya ma'am. She said that that pens, which generally like children they use and throw. So what I thought about, in fact, we were discussing on one other day. We thought that rather going with these pens, so at least being an educationist, we should go with a one thought process where we'll ask children to use fountain pen, because anyways in the senior classes they are supposed to use it. So definitely keeping your session in mind, we will be making them aware about it, and will be like asking them, not insisting, but definitely will be initiating for it to start with a fountain pen. So as a principal of the organization, whosoever teachers are there, because we have a lot many teachers here from different school, I request you all kindly just think about and start working ahead to use the fountain pen. So with that hope that we all will be working over it, and intentionally I spoke on this platform so that I may remember this thing. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for suggesting. Thank you so much, ma'am. So Ananya ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much, Principal ma'am. Over to Setu team now. Due to some technical errors, we will just take another minute. Please stay.
And by the time they'll back, so I want to say once again, thanks to ma'am, especially the senior most lady who have just spared lot of time for us. It's a pleasure to have you with us, ma'am. And I was, throughout the session, I was trying to see from where you are getting that energy to go with the thing. The way you were delivering it was as matchable with the Nidhi Batra, ma'am. So
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
was
That's what keeps me going.
We learn from her. She conducts, she's still ever ready to go and conduct teachers' workshops.
I still
And we
do
keep
it.
telling her that, why are you traveling so much? But that's what motivates her. So she's brilliant. We all learn from her.
Mm.
Wow, that's very nice. Very, very nice, ma'am, to have you with us. Really,
Thank you
indeed,
so
it's
much.
my pleasure.
This is the second
all-
SDG one we have been doing for a school. Initially, we did one for Jaipuriya schools in Lucknow, which was again,
Which-
I was asked
which
to do
Jaipur?
In Lucknow, there's a
Lucknow.
Jaipuriya school. There's a chain of schools there.
They hold a annual refreshers
Ma'am,
course.
I headed one of the organization, Jaipuriya and Lucknow. That's why I'm asking, because there are many schools. So
This was on the outskirts of Lucknow, which is just the colony is being developed. I don't remember the place, but that's where it was. And it was very interesting to do. And, we had to do it on the SDG goals on food and conservation of forest life, which was again interesting. First I thought, what can we do about it? But finally we did come across with something interesting. So this
And
is
what
what
we
keeps me
usually
going.
do are
It's
like, hands-on workshops,
science,
actually, like activity
science.
workshops. So you actually do something like right now we are conversing online. I mean, to do an activity together with teachers, think together, that makes a lot of difference.
We do hands-on activities for teachers also. So that's
Okay.
very interesting sessions we
Right,
have.
you were there on a Kanpur Road.
Yeah,
Kanpur Road.
correct, ma'am. Correct.
Kanpur Road.
Correct.
Yeah, there are these are the famous ones. So,
Yeah, thank you.
and they're close to my heart. That's why I was just sharing with you because I worked with them. So I know, actually, it was very nice to hear that you were there. So definitely, ma'am, we'll look to have you sometime at our school and for that hands-on experiences, ma'am. So now, Team Setu, beta, it's to you. Thank you, ma'am, once again.
Wow, what an enlightening session. Before this session, I think none of us knew that 1 kg of cotton requires 10,000 liters of water. And it almost takes 2,700 liters of water to make a shirt. How ignorant have we been? Just going and buying randomly. I pledge not to buy useless stuff from now onwards. Before this session comes to end, I would take this opportunity to thank the owner and co-founder of our school, a mentor for some, a confidant for many, heart and soul of the school, very exuberant and vibrant, Bhalla ma'am. Without whose support, this journey won't have been possible. On this note, I would like to remember the owner and co-founder, Major Bhalla sir, a generous and pure soul. He was diligent and left no stones unturned to make little scholars reach the zenith. On behalf of entire Setu team and Little Scholars fraternity, I would extend my most sincere thanks. Special mention to Sahariti team, Nidhi ma'am and Apajit ma'am for sparing their valuable time and making this webinar a success. Most importantly, thank you all the participating teachers for your willingness and active involvement in the session by stepping out of your comfort zone for us. Once again, thank you all for being with us. See you in the upcoming sessions. It has been a great pleasure. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. I thought it would be.